Uh, Hello? Okay, I don't know what the hell is going on here, chat. Check, check, check. Check, check, check. Mic check. What the hell is going on here? Mic check, mic check. Alright, there we go. Alright, chat. Let's get this thing started. What's up, everybody? So we should be live now on the stream. Make sure you guys are seeing everything okay. Can you guys see me and hear me? Drop a comment below. You get a poll going on here. Everybody see me and hear me. Drop a comment below, chat. Drop your comments below. So I got a question for you guys. I'm gonna open this up here. Side. I guess I gotta do it from the phone. Oh, maybe I can do it from here. Okay, there we go. Alright, there we go. Do you believe exists amongst us beyond Earth? Yes or no? Drop your answers below in the chat. Okay. And we're gonna start kicking it off with the stream. What's up, everybody? Let's see these comments. Let's get these comments rolling in. We're gonna start talking about some of the news that I'm seeing here about extraterrestrial life. So we're gonna scroll through here. I saw a few interesting things pop up on my feed that I wanted to go over, so we'll see. It's a long podcast, isn't it? Oh, looks like my screen's freezing up here. What's going on, man? It's base Wi-Fi. What's up, chat? Looks like this browser is frozen for a second. Okay. Army captures live alien. You won't believe what happens next. Let's see what comes up. All right, so I actually want to watch this because I've started seeing some news suggesting that these old clips may be real. I don't know if it's this exact thing here, but there was an old clip. I believe we did watch it on the podcast of an interview with an extraterrestrial, and people were saying that something came out that's proven it to be real potentially. So let's see right here.
And interacted with Air Force.
Sorry,
Hopefully it
guys.
all comes
We
out
should
and
be able to
people
hear
can
that now.
legally talk about it at some point. But
Can you talk about it without
I know there's been multiple contact events, like straight up,
coordinated
yeah, like
contact
straight up
events?
contact events. One of them is revealed in the film actually, but there are more. There was several of the people in my film talk about an event that happened at Halleman Air Force Base where two non-human crafts approached the base, one landed, beings walked out and interacted with Air Force officials and CIA officials, and a couple people go on the record talking about that in the film. But there have been other events, I've been told.
How are those beings described?
They were described as tall, slender, humanoid. And the another thing that I heard that gave me chills was that someone involved with a recovery interacted with a non-human being that was dying and heard thoughts in his head that said, "You humans don't know your full potential." And that was said to me by a very senior, older guy from the intelligence community. And I thought that was pretty incredible. Also, just the extent to which the legacy program is real. This isn't like 50 guys, sitting in a quiet, dark room. You're talking about a massive program with thousands of people going to work every day and dealing with this. And to me, that is mind-blowing,
Yeah.
The guy next to you at the pizza place, on a Saturday night might be working on this during the day,
Right.
The guy who, the other father at your kid's little league game.
Yeah.
This is what he deals with, right?
That's so
The
sad.
fact that is a thing, and we had a similar dynamic for the Manhattan Project. There were always people working on it, and they kept it secret, right? And their neighbors and friends didn't know. But this is that on steroids. So, after the Manhattan Project, which was had a budget in the billions, this situation arose. And it had to be even more secret than the Manhattan Project, because the Manhattan Project, we found out in hindsight, leaked, right? There were moles.
Right.
So we needed to make this even more secret and give it more money and more resources and more, counter intel.
And more threats.
Which is counter intel, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, threats if you reveal those secrets. But it's like the more this stuff gets discussed, the more I go back to what Lazar said. Because what Lazar is describing from the 1980s is exactly what these people are saying now. They've had these things. They've been trying to figure them out. They've been working on them. At least in the 1980s, they hadn't totally cracked it yet. But they did know how to operate them, and that they would do these tests. But everything was so compartmentalized. He said he wasn't allowed to talk to the metallurgist. There was different people that were assigned to it.
Yeah.
What they were assigned to do was to try to figure out how the propulsion system worked.
Yeah.
And then there was other people that were assigned to try to figure out how the metallurgy was formed.
Yeah.
Because whatever it was seemed like it was 3D printed. It didn't have any seams.
Yeah.
And when he talks about it, it sounds exactly like what people are talking about today, which is really bananas.
Yeah.
Because this is late 1980s, and he's the first guy to crack through with this stuff.
Yeah. Everything is so, in that secret program, everything is so siloed out where you could have one team of defense contractors who are working on one thing. They're not even told it's from an alien spacecraft. They're just told, here's the thing. It might be Russia. It might be China. Tell us how it works.
Right.
They're just kept in a little bubble. And one of the issues now is that everything's become so overclassified and so siloed that it's actually hurting progress. And that's a lot of the scientists in my film are voicing that. And one of the other things I learned recently that isn't in the film, Jay Stratton, who ran the UAP task force, he told me that during that time he had started a talk with one of the senior scientists, Lockheed, who was frustrated by how overclassified everything was. It even made it hard for the defense contractors to get the right manpower and brains on it, because not everyone can be cleared to do the work, right? There's all these red tape hurdles to progress, right? And so they had made a plan to move one of the crafts that had been recovered that was in Lockheed's possession into the possession of the UAP task force. And then the task force was going to be able to put more brain power towards it. And then the head of science and technology at the CIA shut it down in the middle of the transfer. They had actually secured a hangar on a military base and prepped it to be a classified hangar that would hold this craft, and they were stopped. So the issue of overclassification.
Did they know what happened after that?
Yeah, the CIA just shut the whole transaction down, and the craft stayed in Lockheed's possession. And then that particular leader within Lockheed died about 2 years later. So the effort kind of stopped. He had cancer. The overclassification is definitely a hurdle for this. And our competitors don't necessarily have that. Like there's no free will in China. She can just be like, hey, you're the smartest guy graduating your class. You're gonna go work for the nation on this,
Right. Period.
And here the problem is no one knows it's real. One of the things I hope the film changes is it makes the scientific community know that this is a valid area of inquiry. This is real. It's a real situation, and there's a ton of problems for the next generation of engineers and scientists to solve, And so hopefully it inspires them and helps us make progress, because there's a lot of progress that could be made here.
Well, it certainly seems like it, but it's like one of the things that you guys propose in the film that I think may be the only way forward is some sort of a mass amnesty to all these people that did lie to Congress and probably misappropriated funds and maybe stole a little bit here and there. Like if that doesn't happen.
Chat. So I recently watched a video, and I gotta try and find it for you guys, where exactly what he just said was reiterated by somebody within Congress, I believe, or ex-Congress or something like that. I can't remember the exact title and what their position was within the U.S. government, but what they were saying was that there's different tiers of classification. And there's different projects within these classifications, and within those projects, if there's like a difference between a classified black and a classified gray, and essentially these shadow agencies are working off the funds that are being put into these black projects, and they're having the funds kind of shift through the black projects from people that are like a select few people that are in charge of the black projects that know about the gray projects. So they're using funds that are being sent for one project and siphoning it into the gray project without everybody else knowing. It's very interesting. I gotta try and figure out which video it is.
No one is going to push to make this public. No one's going to push for like actual full disclosure, because it leaves them too exposed. And if they do have the kind of power that they must have to be running an organization of thousands of people working on something with unbelievable amounts of money being transferred to these programs, they don't want to let that go.
Yeah.
Like this is like it's a honeypot that they're drawing from, right? And they're probably still taking too much, or there's no oversight. You're still lying to Congress. And you'd have to have some national security amnesty program saying, look, in the interest of national security, it's critically important that we get all of our best people working on this. The only way we're ever going to really do that is to completely reveal that this is actually really happening. This is real crafts from somewhere or something. We have them. We'll tell you where we have them. And I think right now, people wouldn't even freak out, because I would think that people would freak out if there was some sort of official narrative of disclosure. But that's sort of been breached, right? The New York Times breached that in 2017.
I think this film is that. I mean, this is 34 credible people putting their reputation and name on the line, which I honestly, Joe, I think it's stronger evidence than any video or photo. These days, you could put a 4K video of a giant craft over Vandenberg, and half the human population will say it's AI,
right,
or creating some visual effects program. But someone of note putting their name and reputation on the line, their career on the line, the rest of their lives on the line, to say this is what I know to be true. To me, that's the greatest evidence that exists. But I do think, to your point, amnesty is something that's gonna have to be figured out, because while it's hard for anyone to accept letting people off the hook for wrongdoings, right? It does seem like it's in the best interest of the bigger picture.
100%.
Because these people just aren't good. They have no incentive to come forward with what they've learned. And so to quote Rubio in the film, he says, look, this is not a endeavor to go and punish anyone, but we need to know what they learned.
Right.
And I think he's totally dead on. And, you know,
is he in favor of some sort of an amnesty program as well?
Yeah, he says on camera in the film, he's like, I'm not trying to punish anyone. I need to know what they learned because taxpayers paid for this, and it's in our interest to know what's going on. But the other thing that's needed is real whistleblower protection, not the whistleblower protection that's been passed so far.
I think I found the video chat.
Much
so just stand
stronger
by. We're going to be playing
legal
that
protection,
next.
so that people like the folks I talked to, the special forces guys I talked to, were going to come forward and decide they thought to be forfeiting their lives. You've got to change that set of circumstances. You got to make those people feel like that's not going to happen to them.
Right.
And what I think ultimately is going to have to happen, and I wouldn't be surprised, man, if it happens soon after the film comes out, I think a sitting president has to step to the microphone and say, definitively, humanity's not alone in the universe. We have recovered technology of non-human origin. So have other nations. There is a high-stakes secret Cold War race to reverse engineer this technology. We need to win this race, and the U.S. intends to lead in this new chapter. I think that needs to happen, like a level set of basic facts, and I really do think it will happen.
Well, if that is going to happen, I think Trump might be the only guy that's willing to do something crazy.
I think it's very likely that he does that. I know that he is aware of the film. I know he's aware of what people in his administration say.
Has he watched it? You know that?
He has not watched the film, but I know he's very aware of it, and I know that they are discussing internally how they're going to react to the film publicly. And I also know that he has very recently tasked
I watched
Tulsi
that
Gabbard
film. It was very good. Highly
getting to the bottom of the
recommended. It's
situation
available
and
on
finding
Amazon
out from
Prime.
him
You
what
have
he
to
needs
pay
to
for
know
it,
that he
but it's
doesn't know.
well worth the watch.
And as Rubio said in the film, Rubio says on camera, on the record, on the film, that this has been kept from sitting presidents. And he goes into detail on how that's been done and how it's the career bureaucrats in certain elements of the government that control this information and just wait presidents out and don't feel like they have a need to know.
Right. Well, there were some people that tried to find information out in the beginning of the Trump administration. Who was it? There was someone that talked about it on record and said he was told at every turn that you don't have the clearance.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Trump actually found out about the base facts in his last presidency and was contemplating stepping to the microphone then.
What base facts?
So Jay Stratton, who ran the task force, he says on camera in my film that that Mnuchin, the Secretary of Treasury, asked for a briefing on the lay of the land because Trump asked him to get the briefing, and Trump had already known that the base facts that we're not alone in the universe, that there's been recovery of crashed craft, right? He knew those base facts, and he told Mnuchin that he was thinking about going public. And so Mnuchin reached out to Stratton to get a briefing, and he told Stratton that the reason he wanted the briefing is because he needed to be able to evaluate what the impact would be to the economy if the president decided to step to the mic and tell the world we're not alone. And Stratton tells the story on camera in the film, and I've heard a lot more about it off camera. So we know Trump contemplated doing this already. Now I think the release of this film and Rubio's involvement puts enough on the table that it makes it easier for him to do.
I think they would have to have some sort of a plan in place if they were going to say that, right? Like the amnesty plan, the idea behind it would have to be in place. If someone's
at least grab control of the situation and say that this is real and the U.S. intends to lead the way. Because the other factor that the White House has to keep in mind is you don't want Xi or Putin being the guy to do that.
Right.
You don't want them to have that moment, right?
Right.
Something I always think about with regards to that moment of a president stepping to the mic, when we entered the space race, Kennedy gave that big famous speech, right? He was like, we're going to lead in space. Technology, space technology, like nuclear technology, has no conscience of its own. It's up to man to use it for good or bad, and we're going to make sure it's used for the betterment of all mankind, and we're going to lead the way. That was his whole rallying speech, right? And it made the whole scientific community be like, we're going to help the U.S. win, rah, 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 right? I think that's needed in this race. We need all the support of the scientific community, of academia, the kids coming out of MIT. We need them putting their brain power towards this. And I think the White House knows that. And it's also the greatest. That's the greatest TV moment a leader could have in the history of humanity. Step
How
into the
much
microphone.
do you think Elon knows?
Look, I've seen him obviously talk to you about it. I think he knows a lot.
Yeah, me too.
I don't think you get the contracts and the clearances you need to operate in space
Yeah.
without some horse trading.
Yeah, when I went to SpaceX, I'm like, motherfucker, you know everything. There's no way you're launching these fucking things into space without them keying you in on exactly what's going on. He's just sly about it.
Well, I
He
did
goes,
a.
well, if they are aliens, they're certainly all subtle. That's what he says. Like,
Well,
are they really? I don't know, man.
I think it's impossible to operate in space like he does and not be aware of everything, and also at the level he operates clearance wise. I held a secret screening at the National Space Symposium earlier this year, which is the Super Bowl of the space industry. It's like 60 people, heavy hitters from the space industry. We didn't promote it or publicize it at all, but there were a dozen guys from SpaceX there, and they all seem very aware of everything revealed in the film.
Yeah, I'm positive.
You know,
And he's my friend, and he won't tell me.
he's
That
a
motherfucker,
legend.
He
He's
keeps
a
a
legend.
lid on it.
He's a legend.
But how would he not know? If it is,
Hey,
and,
Arlo,
you know,
welcome to the
some people
stream.
told me he knows
I'm doing a
that-
podcast
that
currently
he knows
called
some things.
Cosmic Conspiracies. If
whatever.
you wanted to hop into
But
that,
the point
we're-
is,
we're looking
people
into the
are good at keeping secrets.
possibility
that's
of
real.
100%.
extraterrestrial
Even people
life
that aren't
living amongst us
Notoriously good at
beyond
keeping
Earth.
secrets. They're
Yeah.
good at keeping secrets when they have to
Sure.
be.
Do you
Especially in
think? Do you think if you put yourself, you've interviewed Trump, do you see him doing that, stepping to the mic and telling us the truth?
someone talks to him about it and convinces him it's a great idea. Like if I had an hour with him.
I mean, it's literally the single, in my opinion, the single greatest moment a leader could have
Well,
in the history of the world.
if he could be the guy that blows the lid off of it, that would definitely help with his legacy too, which I think would be
I
a
definitely
good way to
think
convince
Elon
him.
Musk knows
We're
a
so
lot more
vulnerable.
than
And
than
that's one of
he
the
puts
weirder
out.
things. Like, so first we should get into what you do, because you have a very interesting theory. Tell everybody what your background is, first of all.
Yeah, all right. That does seem like a good place to start. My background is in anthropology, biological anthropology. My research mostly focuses on evolutionary anatomy, biomedicine. I've done some archaeology, various places around the world, in Montana. But the reason I'm here, I assume,
How's
'cause
everybody?
according to my friend Matt, we were butchering a mule deer, I think I shot. And I was like, yeah, I gotta go to this conference. And I was like, do you want to know what it's about? He's like, nobody gives a shit about what you do other than UFOs, man. I was like, damn it, he's right. Like, I did actually used to do a lot of what I thought was cool stuff. But no, the main thing is that I've become known for advocating for this idea that UFOs and the aliens are actually our time-traveling future human descendants. I wouldn't even say as opposed to extraterrestrials, because I do think that's a component too. I oftentimes get pigeonholed. People are like, oh, you just think they're all time travelers. I don't. I actually say this all the time, but it doesn't matter. I do think there's a lot going on. But my background and the reason I approach this question this way is because there's a lot of characteristics of these aliens that look so
I'm gonna go ahead and have half of this
and specifically
sandwich
what we
chat.
expect to see in
So
our hominin future if the same evolution
I did
trends
go down
continue into the
for
future.
lunch.
So I kind of just tie those things
And
together.
today
and
was
even
horrible.
The saucer-shaped crafts
They
really
literally
are time
gave
machines
us like
themselves.
uncooked
So
raw fish.
that's kind of the Cliff Notes version.
And
Well, it's a theory that a lot of people have
disgusting, simple
independently
baked
sort of
potato.
come to, right?
Yeah,
Like,
especially
or
recently.
whatever, not baked,
and
I don't know what it was.
the
Some type of
concept
potato.
well, we just
And
think about ancient
that I just
man.
had a bunch of
I was
sides,
watching
like
this
pasta to fill me
documentary
up,
on Neanderthals last
some
night about
olives,
this one
and some little cocktail
intact
onions, and that was
Neanderthal skeleton that
Join
they
the army, they say.
found that was, it had sort of been, he had died in a cave, and there's stalagmites, is stalactites or mites? How do you say
Tastes
it?
Mites are
weird.
up, mites are down.
So he was essentially
got something in the
mineralized.
Mm-hmm.
There was stuff all over the body, and it took a long time for them to break this body.
I think I saw that. Was that on Netflix?
No, I was watching it on YouTube. Maybe originally it was on
okay.
Netflix, but it was just documenting how strange this body was that they had found. But it was immensely strong, like much
Dare I
stronger
say
than
it,
us. One of the interesting
food in the
things
British
is that their
military is
visual
better.
cortex, the part of the brain that would process imagery, was larger than ours, 10 to 20% larger.
Yeah.
And that so these things probably had better eyesight than us, perhaps even were able to see at night. and that this is a bigger, stronger version of a human being, like much more durable than what we are, modern 2025 Homo sapiens.
Yep.
Make sure you guys
If
join
you
up on the
just look, yeah, that's it.
podcast. I'm
So
doing
that's
a
what
live
I want.
podcast right now.
Either human or
It's called Cosmic
Neanderthal.
Conspiracies.
Oh, really?
It's just
And right now we're
unpublished.
Is this
reviewing
the
a lot
sa-
of
this might not be the same
different
one.
videos
This
and
is
trying
maybe
to
a
come to
different
some
one.
sort of
That's a weird one
conclusion as
because
to
what's
whether
that
or not
fucking
we
thing
think
on its head?
That's what it says. It's a
extraterrestrials
stalactite growing out of
exist,
it or
or
something.
whether or not they live
Wow,
amongst us
in a
already,
weird
etc.
form. Weird.
Yeah, it's like a unicorn.
Yeah, like a
so
crest.
They do have a sagittal ridge.
Yes.
Homo erectus had one. There's an offshoot in our hominid lineage called the Paranthropus or robust Australopithecines, and they had a full-on like gorilla style
Really?
sagittal ridge. Yeah, because they were vegetarians, so they just chewed all day.
Right. So they had massive muscles to
Mhm.
chew.
Yeah, their whole face is huge.
Wow.
Neanderthals, kind of, I mean, they were just big. It's
Yeah.
just a robusticity thing, but there is evidence from Shanidar Cave in Iraq where
Make
they
sure
were
you guys
using their
participate in the
teeth
poll
as
as well.
tools. We think they were like tanning hides. They were holding the hide in their mouth and then like scraping all the nasty bits off.
Oh.
And you can see that in the tooth wear. So yeah, they were pretty badass. They were the first. I don't know. I think this is cool, but a lot of people think I'm a nerd too. They were the first to use the flake. Like for 2.8 million years, we just hit a piece of rock and like, oh, this is a cool tool. But then they figured out that if you hit the rock in just the right way, the piece that falls off makes an even better tool. It took us like 2.5.
Like
yeah,
this.
exactly.
You make an arrowhead.
And from that point on, like I got to work at a place called Chez Pinot Jonzac in southern France for a summer, and it was a Neanderthal site. And we found these. Actually, it's pretty funny because when we first got there, these tools called MTA hand axes, Mousteri, and it was Schulian tradition hand axes. And there were only 8 found in all of Europe. And they said, if you guys find one of these, we'll buy you all the beer and all the cognac you can drink. So we're in the cognac region of France. And we found one like the 4th or 5th day. We went on to find 7 more over the course of that week. We doubled the number of these things in existence
wow.
in all of Europe. And they were not lying. They bought us so many damn beers. Like archaeologists like to drink. You know,
I'm
that's,
sure.
we dig and it's boring as hell. You know,
Yeah.
it's not Indiana Jones. We're not running around banging hot chicks and flying on planes. We're like, we got a spoon and we're doing this for 8 hours. So, yeah, I actually found the last one on the last day and it was by far the worst one. Like I had to argue that it should even count as one of these. But yeah, no, it was a cool site. So yeah, they were doing well, but we were doing better. We came in and
Well,
replaced them.
something
everybody.
happened where we replaced them.
Are you guys
But
watching
the point
the,
is,
the
as
podcast?
time goes on, humans today are probably
save
the
you
most
the half of
feeble
this for later.
version of humans that have ever existed.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And we're the most feeble versions of people that have existed within the last century, right? Like if you go back to humans from the 1920s versus humans from the 2020s, people have way less testosterone now, way higher instances of miscarriages, way lower sperm count. You know, there's a lot of factors that are at play right now that are changing what a human is. And if you extrapolate, if you look at the future, you would naturally say, well, we're probably going to be very thin. It seems like there's at least some sort of a push to eliminate gender. Like gender seems like it's on the table as whether or not it's even necessary. There's all sorts of new technological innovations that are leading to the possibility, at least sometime in the future,
What's up, guys?
of an artificial womb.
Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream.
There's
I'm
genetic
currently,
engineering
doing
with
2 streams
CRISPR
right now. I invite
and
you
a
guys
lot of
to
other
head
different
over to the
technologies that are
Cosmic
being
Conspiracies podcast,
explored that we
where we're
might be
talking
able
all
to
things space,
engineer human
extraterrestrial,
beings
and
then even
non-human life
create
forms
a complete
potentially living amongst us on
individual
Earth.
human being without a mother, without a father. So if you thought about what that looks like in the future, like one of our problems on this planet is we all have different ideologies, different religions, come from different parts of the world. We look different. And human beings, as tribal primates, have a tendency to other. We other different tribes. Those are not us. We are us. Those are the enemy. We go out.
You rally around it.
But if everybody's exactly the same and we share one mind, you know, then a lot of our problems go away.
Yeah.
If we no longer have to compete for resources, we no longer have the desire to procreate and to acquire land and to be, you know, to have a territory, we eliminate a lot of our issues. And that's what these things look like. When you look at the archetypal, these iconic sort of shapes that have been on cave walls all the way up to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, one thing they share is that they have no muscle, they have large heads, they have big eyes.
And they're childlike. They're very
Yeah.
paedomorphic, as we say. Yeah, you just tied together like a lot of really important points related to this theory. Aspects of why they're always interested in our gametes, why they come back and put that little machine on a man to collect semen, why they're constantly taking eggs from females and implanting fetuses, pulling them back out later. Like they're clearly focused on reproduction, gamete extraction, and one of the things that might be fueling that in the future, if these are future humans, let's just assume for a second, hypothetically, is that they might be having problems directly resulting from these trends toward self-domestication, these trends toward feminization, these trends toward reduced sperm counts, which is 60% across most populations of the world, in the industrialized world, 50% across the entire world. Problems with reproduction, in vitro fertilization, exogenesis chambers might help solve some of those problems, growing the fetus outside of the body. So yeah, and like you said, what do they look like? They look like kind of a hybrid between males and females to some extent, but there's still an essence of gender. Like if you talk to Whitley Strieber, he's with this bean.
What's up, chat?
He says
What's
in
up,
communion that I
everybody?
had a sense that she was a woman. I don't know why, but I kind of sensed that. So it's almost like the essence of the individual, the soul of the individual still retains that sort of gender identity, even though our bodies
guys,
are becoming more childlike, more gender indiscriminate. I don't know. But yeah, yet another one of those ways in which we might sort of grow together.
I'm going to be putting us into a different video soon. So make sure you guys pay attention to everything that's being said, because I think it's all going to tie together. But as I told you, there was a very interesting discussion that I heard, and I think I found the clip of the video with the people that were hosting this discussion. And I think it explains a lot as to how funds are being moved into these programs, and it kind of takes the wrapper off the package in a sense, because if this is the case and it is true that this is what's taking place, and it proves that the programs do exist, and if they do exist, then also therefore the aliens or extraterrestrial life could reasonably be believed to exist if they've funded a whole secret program just to work around it and investigate it and study it. So let's look at
As a species.
Now, when
this
you
is an
say
archaeologist speaking
they
right now.
are extracting sperm, like how many of these stories do you take seriously? There's a lot of these stories.
It's a great question. Yeah.
There's unfortunately for any sort of spectacular public thing that's in the zeitgeist, like alien abduction, whether it's Whitley Strieber from Communion or the John Mack books, the guy from Harvard that wrote, what was it, Abduction?
Passport to the Cosmos and
Yeah.
Abduction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Two great books.
Great books, but these are all books about encounters, close encounters of the third kind with some sort of a being from another place. Whatever it is, it's just not a human being, and it seems to be technologically at least superior to us.
Mhm.
And it seems to be one thing they all seem to share is they seem to be able to communicate telekinetically or telepathically.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean they aren't human, but they are very human too. So for instance, like that's one of the main reasons I started exploring this. I was actually kind of put into this when I was 8 or 9 years old, sort of activated in a way and put on this path by a weird thing that happened to me when I
What
was a
happened
kid.
to you?
Well, so I talk about it in my first 2 books, Identified Flying Objects and the Extraterrestrial Model, where I learned about a close encounter that my dad had. He was a veterinarian in Northeast Ohio, where I grew up, and he was out one night on a call with another guy. So there's 2 people. As far as Jalen Hynek's reliability scale, has more reliability because there's multiple witnesses. It's also strange on his scale because they crested the hill. There's a bright light. This is an Amish country. There's no lights in Amish country. And all of a sudden, this bright light darts toward them, hovers just above their truck, darts back to where it was, and straight up into space, like at incredible speed. So this happened before I was born, but I overheard him telling the story to some friends one night. He got Whitley Strieber's book Communion, as most people did in the 1980s, and as they should, because it's a great book. And I walked into the living room. The book is sitting on the shelf facing out. And I remember, like it was
What's up,
yesterday, I sort of stopped,
How
and
you
there
guys
was like
doing?
this light, like a white light. And then I saw this image in my mind of like an early hominin chimpanzee-like creature, a modern human, and then that archetypal gray alien from the cover with this information. What if they're related? What if they are us from the future? And obviously, I mean, that's why I became a biological anthropologist. People are always like,
So you saw this?
yeah, it was like a flash, like a light. And it's weird looking back on it because I know a lot more about these experiences. I've talked to people that have had these types of experiences.
What was the setting?
It was our living room. So it was like you come in the front door and just to the left there's this living room, built-in bookshelf, Whitley's books right there. I just turned the corner, saw it, and then like whoosh, just kind of it just came. Like I didn't know shit about evolutionary biology.
When
I
you
didn't
say
know
you
about
saw
UFOs.
it, you saw it how?
In my mind, just this white light.
Just an image.
And that image of the three faces, and then the question, could they be us from the future? And a lot of people are like, how'd you get into UFOs? Like, you're a biological anthropologist. It's the opposite. I got into biological anthropology to research this question of whether they could be us from the future.
Huh. So this you felt like at that moment it wasn't just like a weird thought or a dream. It felt like a message. Like, what did it feel like?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a tasking.
What's up, chat?
You know, I think
Welcome
Rupert
to the stream,
Sheldrake
guys.
said
Make sure
it,
you guys join
that
the
people don't have
Cosmic
ideas,
Conspiracies
ideas have
podcast
people.
right now.
I think that was like hey, go do this thing.
Mm.
And I did. That's why we're here now, talking about it. And obviously, you know, you got to be careful about like selection bias and confirmation bias. Like I didn't go into this. I didn't go into grad school. I also didn't tell anybody in grad school I was there because they would have kicked me out. But I went into it with an open mind, but I was there to study these things because of that event when I was 8 years old.
Wow. Yeah, it is a problem, the confirmation bias. It is a problem with wanting it to be real. And I struggle with that because I desperately want it to be real. And so every time I talk to someone, you know, I've talked to a bunch of people that are, you know, air quote, whistleblowers. And some of them, I think, for sure, have been sent in here to distribute disinformation.
Yeah, no doubt.
For sure, because it's a great place to do it.
Yeah.
All right, chat. We're gonna go into another one now that I wanted to show you guys. Should be here. Here we go.
This was just and he said, I'm going to play a tone. And he said, I'm going to play a tone. And I want you to mentally hum that tone. And he said that you will eventually feel a connection. The line will change. When I saw the sine wave move, I went, oh, okay, well, there's a mental disconnect there that's not supposed to be happening. That this is not possible.
Our guest today is an Air Force sergeant who worked at the highest levels on classified projects in electronics and signals intelligence for the United States government. We have thorough documentation of his military records. His service is not something you can really argue with, nor is his mental health. This is the most nonchalant conversation I've ever had about alien telepathic communication. In this exclusive long-form interview, retired technical sergeant Dan Sherman claims that while serving in the Air Force in the early 90s, he was recruited for an extremely classified program at the NSA, or National Security Agency. This program was called Project Preserve Destiny. Project Preserve Destiny's purpose? To telepathically decode alien signals for the NSA. You heard me right. Alien signals that seem to telepathically transmit descriptions of alien abductions across the United States. Alien signals that ultimately gave our very curious guest answers about the very nature of the alien presence on Earth, how these beings travel, how they conceive of time, what they think about humans, and much, much more. Dan Sherman was originally told by the Air Force captain who read him into the program that he was given this telepathic ability by the aliens themselves when they abducted Sherman's pregnant mother in the early 1960s and altered his genetics while he was a fetus in her womb. This genetic blueprint would allow him to grow into what the NSA would dub an intuitive communicator.
With the IC communication, you can feel it in your brain. You can feel, you can't localize it. It's not a localization, but I can feel like it's in that area of my brain right there.
Whoa.
And
Sherman believes the NSA may even have tracked him since childhood into his young adulthood and military service until he was finally read into the program.
It's like you're
Do
basically
you think that
like
the NSA
government
or powers that
project
be
from
know
birth.
that this interview is happening? Because of the extremely sensitive nature of this NSA program and its ties to black programs, Dan tries to abstain mentioning which bases this Project Preserve Destiny was conducted at. But my researchers and I were able to locate one of these bases, and I bring it up at the end of this interview, catching Sherman a bit off guard. Not only that, but at the end of this video, we explore an independent researcher's use of the Freedom of Information Act to learn more about Project Preserve Destiny. He sent a request to the government to see all of the files on it. As you'll see, both the Air Force and NSA's responses to his request are fairly telling. The point is, the skeptics can have at it, but this case isn't going away. It's very hard to dismiss. I'd argue that Dan Sherman's story is one of the most important
check.
UFO
Mic
legacy
check.
program-related
Mic check.
accounts we have to contend with. So sit back, relax, and prepare to have your worldview crumble with
Yeah,
this
there's
week's
audio.
very courageous American alchemist, retired sergeant, intuitive alien communicator, and UFO whistleblower, Dan Sherman. Dan Sherman, thank you so much for being here. This, for me, is a dream come true and has been a long time coming. I've read your incredible book, Above Black, and it documents an experience that, to me, is so fascinating. It's kind of, in some ways, high strangeness. It doesn't comport with a lot of the other stories. And so that, to me, that is like the perfect combo of like what I want to investigate, because you seem like a really cool, lucid guy. And then you're talking about being an intuitive communicator, you know, downloading signals from aliens for the NSA.
Yeah.
Which is pretty amazing.
Yeah. It is. And downloading is an interesting description, but it definitely was. You couldn't see it, so it looked like it was downloading.
Or decrypting, or I don't know. Yeah. So
Receiving. I'd like to say receiving, but
receiving.
Yeah.
Okay. Why do you like to say that?
well, downloading kind of denotes some sort of machine, or we associate downloading with uh, bits and data, and it wasn't like that. It was just a thought.
Yep.
It was a thought that came. So I just trying to keep it organic as opposed to machine related.
Yeah.
And I know we got, in the book I talk about machines and how I interface with the computer and all that. So there is a machine component in my training, but after that it wasn't really much of a machine. So
Right. Well, why don't we take things back to
Sure.
your childhood? Where'd you grow up?
Grew up in a lot of places. Between kindergarten and 12th grade, I went to 27 schools. So
27 schools.
Yeah.
What was the reason for that?
we just moved a lot. My dad was a welder, and we were very, very poor, and just went with the wind. And of course I had step parents, and I went to live with my grandma and my aunt, and there was a lot of broken home type situation too. So I was going from one place to another all the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
But
So
there
it's-
was no sort of military brat dynamic?
No,
Your dad
no.
was just a welder?
Yeah, no, there was no military component.
Interesting. And you just even being here today is sort of unlikely, right? Because your mother was having trouble giving birth for
Yeah.
a long time, and
Yeah.
you were kind of an anomaly?
Yeah, the doctors, she
There's
had
audio on
an
my side. I
accident
don't
when
know
she
what you're
was like
messaging me.
10 or 11. She fell off the
There's audio on my
tailgate of a
side.
pickup truck, and her sexual organs were messed up, and the doctors basically said she'd never carry a baby to term. And she had many miscarriages, but I was the only one that I like to say I was the only miscarriage that came that that lived. Anyway, so it was definitely an interesting correlation, I guess, to the story after I found out about, what I
Yeah.
found out about kind of correlated. It was like, well, maybe there was some protective angels there somehow.
Yeah. Well, everybody listening now should put a pin in what you just
Yeah.
said
We
because
can't get ahead of ourselves,
we
right?
can't. But there are some very interesting details to come about your mother. So, what made you want to become Air Force Electronics
Well,
Intelligence?
we managed some horse stables in Yuba City, California, and we had a person who um, boarded their horse there, and he was a major in the Air Force, and he was a SR-71 pilot. And of course, that fascinated me. Here I am, a fourth grader, being able to interface with somebody who's been on the news, that met President Carter, that he was like a hero to me.
Mhm.
And we would talk. I remember conversations with him when we were watching his daughter ride the horse that they were boarding. Um, he would tell me about flying in the Air Force, and as a kid, you get enamored with stuff like that, and it stuck with me, and so I definitely wanted to. And I was very patriotic as well, so I really wanted to do something in that realm, which is serving. So it kind of came all together when I was in high school. And
Were you interested in tech or electronics or
I was always,
signals or
yeah,
anything like that?
I was always interested in technology. And of course, in 1974 when I met him, technology was a color TV. There wasn't really any technology per se, just science fiction and Star Trek and all that type of stuff. Um, so I was definitely interested in that. But as time went on, yes, I became more and more interested when tech became more advanced, and I
Mm.
definitely a techie, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so how long did you serve just generically?
12 years.
Okay.
12 years. I was in the Air Force for 12 years.
Okay. And where were you stationed?
I was stationed in Korea, Italy, Colorado, North Dakota, Nebraska, and Texas for a while. And I went TDY, of course, temporary duty for my schooling at Fort Meade, at the NSA headquarters, and Philippines and Japan. So I went a lot of places.
To the crazy skeptics out there, would you be able to produce like a DD-214 or
Yeah.
like your service record?
Yeah, I can.
The main point of asking about the DD-214 thing is to the super skeptic that's out there.
Oh yeah.
You have a service record.
Oh yeah.
And there's really no way to deny that you were Air Force Electronics.
So check this out, chat. Electronic signals, intel, exploitation, craftsman. Very interesting. He's got a security craftsman clearance, or no, that's his specialty, security craftsman. He's got a ton of medals.
Intelligence at the very least.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
Decorations,
you get
medals.
called to go to a school for electronics intelligence, like for upgrading your skill set or something?
When
or?
I went into the military, I went
Yeah.
in as a security policeman. I
Huh.
was just a police,
Mhm.
and at the time that I was taking the tests for the to get in, the ASVAB tests and the things that they test you on to get you into the military and to also place you. They said that I qualified for every
So chat,
every job in the Air Force, but I'd have to wait X
feel
amount
free
of
to
time
join
if
up
I
on
wanted
the
a
Cosmic Conspiracies
job, and I didn't want to
podcast.
wait.
We are
I was
live right
18.
now.
I was out of the military, or
reviewing
out of the
some,
out of school, and
additional
graduated, and I just wanted to go.
on the internet.
So I
and
said,
kind
just
of
give me
bridging the gaps between
any
them and
career field that
figuring out what
you have
is
available
happening
right
in
now.
reality.
So that was
What
it.
is the truth about
So I went in,
extraterrestrial
and
life forms living amongst
and
us
then
or beyond
after
Earth?
about 4 or 5 years, I applied for a cross train, and that's when I was cross trained into ELINT.
Okay.
So
Can you say where you were based when you applied for the cross training?
Montana.
Okay.
I was in Montana, and my first base as an ELINTer was in.
Let me know in the
Air Force
chat below
Base.
if you guys are hearing me.
Okay, got it.
On
And so
both
what,
streams,
as
at
just for the audience, basic context, what are you doing as an ELINT Air Force officer?
We had different collection platforms. You have satellite, you have aircraft, you have even vehicles. We have collectors that collect enemy information. They collect the radio transmissions of border areas or even over a country, and we collect that electronic emissions. And then we, as the elanders, we analyze all that electronic communications and what type of electronic emission it is, whether it radar or comms or even lasers and any type of emission that comes from a country, we kind of delineate and parse out what it is, and then we look at it for intelligence value. And then if it does have, like, let's say it's a TV station, well, we know that, and so that's not intelligence value, although it could be intelligence value for other intelligence fields, but not us. And so we look at the stuff that has to do with radars and military assets that are going to sense us as their enemy. So we need to build jamming packages that allow us to completely control the airspace. And we didn't build the jamming packages, but we gave them the parameters by which they looked at it. The jamming people looked at it, and they built their packages based on what we gave them.
Gotcha. And so what happens? You're based at Offutt, and
Okay,
you're
so-
told that you should go to some schooling.
Make sure you guys
Well,
are
I went
using
to
the
school
link in the
initially
description
for the
or
career
in
field
chat
in
box to hop over to the
San Angelo,
Cosmic
Texas.
Conspiracies podcast.
And then I became certified, and became an elanter. And then that's when I went to Offutt. Well, I went to Offutt before, but then just for a little bit. But then I went to school and then back to Offutt. And I was put up for going to a continuation course, which is called EA 280. You become qualified, and then you got to do continuation courses to get you better qualified. And that was what EA 280 was. And that's what sent me to the NSA complex. And then when I got there, they sprung this other thing on me and said, "You're going to be going to another school while you're here." And I was like, "Oh."
So describe exactly what happened. So you go to the NSA complexes in Maryland, is that right?
Yeah, it's in Laurel, Maryland. There's a big, huge, sprawling building there. Now, make sure everybody understands this is 30 some years ago. Now, since then, maybe they've changed things. I don't know. I'm not up on the locations, but we're talking circa 1990s. Okay. At that time, there was a big, huge black building, glass building. It's called I think they called it the black box even, but it's the NSA headquarters building in Laurel. And that's where I went to get my security. Well, actually, back up. We went to a hotel, and here's an interesting little thing. Has nothing to do with PPD, but this is a multi-service school. So they have Marines, they have Navy, Air Force, and Army. And so all four services are going in the same class. And so you have people coming from different bases, Army bases, Navy bases. And this is the difference between the Air Force and everybody else. The Air Force put us up on the two Air Force guys that were there. We got put up in Holiday Inn, and all the other services had to stay in dorms. And it was a contention, believe me. When the other services are, what? You're saying it? What? Holiday Inn? It's like, well, you should have went in the Air Force, dude. So anyway, we stayed at the Holiday Inn, and then I got a call, a random call after I got there from the captain, and he said he needed to meet with me. So he told me where to go at the NSA complex. I never really had a need to go to the NSA complex myself.
Yeah.
Until he told me that was what I had to do, because there's other buildings and outbuildings and all kinds of stuff in that area of Maryland that NSA controls, and so you can just go to wherever that is for yours.
So you think you're here just for Air Force continuing education,
Yeah.
but you're told that you have to go to the NSA complex. And just again, for the audience, basic context, what is the NSA?
National Security Agency. It's basically in charge of all of the intelligence that America does.
All signals intelligence.
Every
It's
intelligence.
known as no such agency.
Yeah. That's one of the jokes they say. That's for sure.
Why do you think it is so much. It's sort of less well known than like the CIA is like the proverbial, archetypal intelligence agency.
Yeah.
And then the NSA, it's known as no such agency. It's like, you hear rumors of like mathematicians in Virginia or whatever, but you don't really know what's going on there.
Yep. Cartographers,
Mhm.
the CIA is a human asset, and they're very closely intertwined with the NSA because they use NSA assets, and NSA uses CIA's assets too. So there's a synergy there, but the CIA is the face of collecting information from other countries and stuff.
Foreign intelligence,
Yeah,
yes.
that's the kind of the face of it, but the underlying base of it is NSA.
Okay. So you're here for Air Force, you're in Maryland for Air Force continuing education.
Yeah.
What are you thinking when you get called into this NSA?
Well,
building?
it was. I thought I was in trouble.
Right.
I thought something. What did I do wrong? Did I fill something out wrong?
Yeah.
But here's the thing: is you don't typically have an officer, a captain, calling you directly and talking to you. And
Right.
usually it's like some uh, sergeant or somewhere that's giving you information if you need information or if calling you in for something. So it was a little odd and a little out of character and or out of the ordinary. And so that, of course, got my mind racing. Like, what is this? What? So I met him in the lobby of the NSA. He told me how to get there, and I don't know how detailed you want, but we had to go through some security stuff. He had to sign me in because my security clearances weren't
As
there yet.
detailed as
Yeah. My security clearances weren't there, so and that is very common in the military. They have to transmit your security clearances to the next base or to your TDY base or class schooling or whatever. And so they weren't there yet, and he had to sign me in. He signed me in, and we went down the hallways, and he led me to his office, and he had now, everybody understand this is 30 years ago, so it's sometimes hard to remember exactly the details, and probably the only reason I know as many details as I do know is because I wrote a book about it.
You've
Obviously,
said them multiple times.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I've written them and I've said them in interviews and stuff. But and by the way, this is the first. Interestingly enough, every
What's up, guys?
person that I've talked to about this in the past, like in an interview situation,
Mm.
it's always been a very, very canned type of situation where they would ask me a question,
Yeah.
I would answer. Yeah, ask me a question, answer, and edited, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It was very. This is the first time, and that's one of the reasons why I want to do it. Is because this is a podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, it's informal.
Hey,
It's
Andrew.
you can
Raw.
just
Welcome back.
talk,
Yes.
and
We're
and
currently
people will
doing the
also get
Cosmic
a feel
Conspiracies
for
podcast. If
an
you wanna
unedited Dan
click
as
the link in the
opposed
chat
to
box.
because
Yes.
the interviews in the past they've been for me anyway. I can't even watch them because they're so cringe. It's just
Well, you come off as reasonable in all of
well, okay,
Okay.
reasonable, but it seems very stilted because there's no conversation.
Yeah,
It's not a conversation. It's
Totally.
just
It's not a back and forth,
yeah,
natural back
yeah,
and forth.
exactly.
But
And
that form of journalism, I think, is dying. I don't think it's like a thing anymore.
And-
it's
and-
really see-through as fake. It's kind of a boomer legacy
yeah,
thing.
thankfully.
Yeah.
Anyway, so where were we? I can't remember now.
So you're in this office.
Okay, so yeah, the different things that like the technology and stuff. I remember that there was a retina scanner but I can't remember if there was a retina scanner at his office. I don't think there was. I think it was just a cipher,
Okay.
The button ciphers. Anyway, so we get into his office and it's just like a normal there's a couch and a chair in front of his desk and like a cabinet that had some
MJ, what's up,
water
MJ?
on it
What's
or
up, Angie?
something like
What's
that.
up,
I
Kyla?
think there was a sink. Anyway, we just sat there and he unveiled this
Kylan.
mind-blowing thing to me, and I'm just a
We're currently
boy from Oregon that's
doing the Cosmic Conspiracies podcast. Make sure you
couldn't
guys
even
check the
imagine
link
something
in
like
the
this
chat
happening
box
to
to
him.
So what was
pop
the
over
rank
to
of
that,
this guy?
live
Captain.
stream.
He was a
Captain.
all my contacts for the project were captains.
So he's sitting down in front of you, and what is he saying exactly? As you know, I'm always on the hunt for things that help me stay sharp, focused, and full of energy while I'm diving into life's mysteries and making this show happen. And I've got to say, Mudwater has completely transformed my mornings. Back in the day, I used to struggle with that post-coffee crash. And let's not even get into the caffeine jitters. With fungal work on a coffee, surgery, that's right, show your energy.
Was part of a proceeded to tell me that I was part of a project that started in 1960, I believe it was, and that we it's the genesis of it was in 1947. We came in contact with an alien species, and
So 1947 is the key year that they're identifying as the main year that they come into contact with alien species.
in 1960 they started a project. It was called Project Preserve Destiny, and it was designed to genetically manage fetuses, human fetuses, so that they would have the heightened ability to do this particular thing that I was going to school for. And my mother was one of the selected targets, or whatever you want to call it. And I was conceived in 63, so he said that she was abducted a couple years before that, and I think that was for the testing and trying to get the right people, to continue the program with. And so in 1963, when she was had me, in term, they abducted her again, and they did the genetic management. That was his words, genetic management. What that means, is up to interpretation, I guess. But the result of it was that it gave me the ability to have this communications.
It's amazing. So he's basically saying that, mentions 1947, presumably the year of Roswell and a couple of other famous sightings, Kenneth Arnold and
I have
others.
to put a caveat there.
Yeah.
So in my memories of this, it's possible that I assigned that year.
Okay,
It's possible.
sure.
I don't know. I can't remember if he actually said it, because I already knew about the 1940. I mean, everybody knows about
Yeah,
the
yeah,
1947
Roswell. Yeah,
Roswell thing.
yeah.
So he could have alluded to that, and I just assigned that year.
Sure.
But he said, I'm positive that he said, due to our communication, or coming in contact with an alien species. And he might have said 15 years ago. He
Sure,
might have
sure.
said, a while ago, and then I assigned that, or he could have said 1947. I can't remember exactly.
Appreciate your honesty and attention
And I
to
want to
detail.
make sure that that's kind of out there, so that it's not pigeonholed, that I had this scientific memory that said that it
Sure.
was definitely that, because I don't.
Yeah.
unfortunately.
No. And I want everybody in the audience, if you're 60 years and up, to try to remember what happened to you,
And
35 plus years
yeah,
ago
yeah,
in
exactly.
vivid detail, and then, report back if you have any
Exactly.
critiques for this. So, no, I really appreciate that. So at some point, right, humanity or the U.S. came into contact with these,
Yeah.
and I believe he does say gray alien beings.
Well, I think that
specifically
came, the gray
later.
terminology came later.
Okay,
he
but
didn't mention
with
that.
alien beings, and in 1960, this project begins where the aliens are given access, presumably by the American federal government, to genetically.
I would say that the government was given access.
Okay.
Not because the aliens, they had access, whether we liked it or not.
Okay.
I would imagine.
Okay.
I mean, if you think about it, because so they did it in concert with the or the government, but I don't know who gave access to who.
Sure.
I mean,
So maybe the abductions have been ongoing.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And all of a sudden, the government
Yeah, exactly.
is interested in developing these intuitive communicators, which you'll later become, and that involves altering the genetics of fetuses inside the womb of specific mothers, one of whom happened to be your mother.
Yes. And they also chose it by demographics too, because
biological projects being run by the
they
government.
knew that a certain percentage of offspring would want to go into the military, of course, so they could track that
Essentially, the
progression
government is running
and
black
to keep it tightly
operations
controlled, because you
or
can't. I
allegedly
mean, if
running
somebody
black operations
went off to be,
to tamper
in
and
some job they
manipulate
couldn't
with
control,
human
then
biologics and
it
integrate
would
them
be
into
useless. So
extraterrestrial
they
biologics.
tried to demographically, and
It's like
I would
biohacking,
imagine
essentially.
many of the underprivileged and poor people were the ones that were
And
poor
this guy's
families were the ones that
allegedly
were
a
selected,
product of
and
that.
mine was one of those, definitely.
How are you feeling as he's telling you this?
Well, I believe I was fairly numb at first. Like, you're getting information that is so unbelievable that you think, okay, this has got to be a joke, or this is one of those hazing things, when you go somewhere and sometimes they haze you because you're the new person or whatever. I mean, that did cross my mind, but in general terms, I was very numb to the situation until at the end it started to gel. Like, this is not a joke, because he would have probably revealed it by now. And so, and I'm in the NSA complex. This is not some office in some base somewhere where they can do that type of thing, and joke with you. So it became real very, very, very quickly.
What do you say back to him?
Not a lot. I think I tried to ask some questions, but he was very very businesslike as far as the revealing of information, because he wasn't. I don't think he knew a lot, to answer those questions. I think he knew exactly what he needed to do to get his job done, just as I only was fed the information that I need to get my job done. So that's very common in the classified world. Is need to know. If you have a need to know that, then you'll know it. But if you don't have a need to know, then you have no need to know that.
And he describes the sort of compartmentalization of these
Yes.
programs a little bit more, right? In
He
this
did.
conversation.
He went over the onion effect. He said that, you have these different layers
This is
that
what I was
are
talking
built
about
in the
earlier,
military
This is
and
a
in
key
government in general, but
component here
definitely in
in
the
this
military,
discussion.
where you have one layer
This
hiding
is
another layer.
appropriation
And of
funds.
course, when you're at the official use only and
Well, from the
unclassified
US Congress standpoint.
aspects of things, there's not much of a layer. But when you get to the secret and the top secret, and then black, and then in our case, and in the case of this, the gray project. So one is designed to cover the other, and especially when you get up to the black and gray project, because when you have a gray project, obviously you need funding, you need all the logistics that go into running that, and you have to have a reason, you have to have a line item, you have to have justification for manpower and funding and all that. So you do that because you have a black project that's co-located with it, and only a select few of the people in the black project know about the gray project, so that they can do their job and administer the gray project. But all the funding, all the manpower, like me going from one base to another, it's all under the auspices of the black project.
So it's why, because a lot of people, even in the UFO community, the proverbial thing is like above top secret, which is Timothy Good's famous canonical UFO book, and you're paying homage to it with Above Black, and you're saying that above programs that are by definition black and off the books, kind of, or off the books for the public at least.
Yeah,
you have these little cutouts that involve the alien presence, that's a big claim. And why do you think he would tell you anything about the compartmentalization of it?
Well, because I was a part of it. I was going to be a part of it. So at that time, I was not assigned to any black projects. I mean, I was just like anybody else in the world. I mean, I knew of the concept of stuff that is above top secret. I even read the book, probably. I would imagine I did, because I remember the name of it that you just mentioned. So it stands to reason that he would try to make me understand that this is just part of that process, and you are going to be going to a black project, and that would be your cover, so to speak, for what you're going to be doing with the Project Preserve Destiny.
So he says that your mother in some way was genetically altered when she was giving
No,
birth
the
to
fetus.
you. The fetus was. So you were well inside of
Yeah.
her in the early 60s. And that was in order for you to become an intuitive communicator who is basically able to receive messages from alien
receive and
beings.
transmit.
Receive and
Yes.
transmit.
Yeah, communicate basically, back and forth.
And he's telling you all of this?
He said that that's what my job would be doing, or that's what my job would be to do that, yes.
And then, so at that point, you know, are you saying like, well, why are you telling me this? Is there like a follow up here? Am I supposed
No,
to?
I mean, when you're told this, it's you're being.
So one of the key points that I wanted to bring out was the misappropriation of funds here. So we're gonna hop over to another video if I can find it.
Intelligent extraterrestrials.
Something I can't discuss in public setting.
Okay, I can't ask when you think this occurred. If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
And was this documentary evidence, this video, photos, eyewitness? Like, how would that be determined?
The specific document.
I'm looking for something here on the misappropriation of funds. I know I should have had this pre-laid out for you guys, but let me see here.
When you say crash retrieval, what do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, you know, call it spacecraft if you will. It's probably not the right parlance, but no kidding, non-human, exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
Quite a number, chat. So this is not like a one-off.
When you say crash retrieval,
this is not a one-off thing. They're not talking about like a little small project running behind the scenes. He's saying that they have quite a number of recovered craft within the U.S. government that is being reverse engineered and analyzed. Quite a number. That's interesting. Because that signifies that there's a far larger level of organization behind the program itself, which would insinuate that the things that the Congress is complaining about in terms of not being aware of these programs and not having direct oversight over these programs is basically at an egregious level, because it's been kept in such secrecy to where they've essentially been able to expand to a level of where they could actually, I guess, host and maintain, hide and maintain these craft and analyze them and reverse engineer them in facilities using government funds without the government even fully being aware of it, unless there's a need to know basis, which is quite interesting. This is the whole concept of a government beyond the government.
Retrieval, what do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, call it spacecraft if you will. It's probably not the right parlance, but no kidding, non-human, exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
Quite a number. Very interesting.
If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came.
Already heard that.
We're going to do something a little bit out of the ordinary here. We're going to give 3 people a chance at an additional 3 minutes. So Mr. Burchett, do you want to keep going?
Why don't you come back to me, Mr. Chairman? Miss Luna, if she's on, is she on that list?
I'm on the special.
Sure.
Chairman, I'd like to submit for the record an article by News Nation, and it follows Mr. Grush's full interview for the record.
Without objection.
Thank you. Mr. Grush, why is it that you refer to the phenomenon as non-human intelligence? Why deviate from the basis of extraterrestrial life?
I think the phenomenon is very complex, and I like to leave an open mind analytically to specific origin.
When you say specific origin, are you referring, can you elaborate on that for those that might not?
If it's a traditional extraterrestrial origin or something else that we don't quite understand from either a biological or astrophysics perspective, I just like to keep an open mind on what it could be,
Okay, and referring to your News Nation interview, you had referenced specific treaties between governments. Article 3 of the Nuclear Arms Treaty with Russia identifies UAPs. It specifically mentions them. To your knowledge, are there safety measures in place with foreign governments or other superpowers to avoid an escalatory situation in the event that a UAP malevolent event occurs?
Yeah, you're referring to actual public treaty in the UN Register. It's funny you mentioned that. Yeah, the Agreement on Measures to Reduce the Risk of Outbreak of Nuclear War, signed in 1971. Unclassified treaty, publicly available. And if you cite the George Washington University National Security Archives, you will find the declassified in 2013 specific provisions in the specific red line flash message traffic with the specific codes pursuant to Article 3 and Article, also Situation 2, which is in the previously classified NSA archive. What I would recommend, and I tried to get access, but I got a wall of silence at the White House, was those specific incidents when those message traffic was used. I think some scholarship on that would open the door to a further investigation using those publicly available information.
Thank you. And then my last question with 51 seconds remaining. You mentioned white-collar crimes potentially being taking place in regards to a cover-up. Can you please elaborate?
I have concerns based on the interviews I conducted under my official duties of potential violations of the Federal Acquisition Regulations, the FAR.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I yield the remainder of my time.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Like you said, keep an open mind, chat.
Documented, investigated, and reported up the chain of command. We sent information up, but we got no guidance down on how to handle these events. I personally witnessed one of these events and investigated others as they occurred. 6 other service members have provided me with the information that I will share with you today. The incursions began on October 14, 2003, when Boeing contractors reported a massive glowing red square silently hovering over 2 missile defense sites.
Boeing contractors.
After several minutes, it drifted further east onto the base and
We're
vanished
talking
over the
about a
hills.
specific
This event, now
department
known as the
within
Vandenberg
Boeing.
Square, was referenced by Representative Luna at the first hearing on this topic. Official Air Force records of this event are in possession by Aero and the FBI. Later that night, while I was on duty, security guards at a critical launch site reported a bright, fast-moving object over the ocean. I responded to the incident. Chaos ensued over the radio as the object approached rapidly. I heard my friends screaming, "It's coming right at us, it's coming right for us, and now it's right here." Moments later, I heard them say that it had shot off and was gone. When I arrived on scene, I talked to 5 shaken witnesses who described a massive triangular craft larger than a football field that hovered silently for about 45 seconds over their entry control point before shooting away at impossible speed. About a week later, another patrol reported a light over the ocean behaving erratically. Believing it might be an unannounced aircraft, they declared an emergency, and an armed response force responded. Before the forces could arrive, the object descended and either landed or hovered on our flight line and then took off again at impossible speed. The witnesses to this event were threatened and intimidated afterward. They were told to keep quiet and think about what they were reporting. After that, things did get quiet until about 2005, when another patrol reported a massive triangular craft larger than a C-130 silently floating over the installation. He watched it for a few minutes. It traveled west and disappeared into the night. And then I had my own encounter, again in 2005. I was off duty, sitting in my backyard with 2 other police officers when we noticed what first appeared to be a satellite in orbit, but it wasn't acting like a satellite. The light was strange, it was pulsing, and then it started to maneuver. It dropped in elevation. At times it would vanish from view and reappear in a different location in the sky, and eventually it reappeared 200 feet over my house. It was a 30-foot diameter sphere of light. My friends and I watched it for a moment, and then it gently accelerated and traveled up and disappeared into the stars. These events profoundly changed my life and the lives of my friends. We stand at a pivotal moment in history. The question is no longer whether these events are real, but whether we have the courage to face them. True leadership requires vision,